Hello and welcome to ACS Golf and this week's review. I'm looking at this. The Mizuno JPX 850 irons. Now, the reason I'm looking at these is number one, I'm a massive fan of Mizuno. If you watch my channel, you'll know I currently play the MP20 HMBs. I've tried the Mizuno Pros 825s from a while ago. And really, I wanted to see if you can go back a couple of years. These are 2015 club. Save yourself a bit of money. Get a cast set of irons from Mizuno and still get that sort of Mizuno feel, the performance that you would expect from Mizuno. Obviously, if you look at the JPX range at the moment, the hot metal, which I actually played the 921s myself, they were cast irons. They weren't forged, but they still felt really nice, really good performance. And I wanted to see if you could save yourself money, go back a few more years and potentially pick up a great bargain. So that's why I picked up these clubs. Now, as always, let's have a close look at the club. Then we'll come back here, discuss all the technology, get down the range, I'll throw some things at you, and then we'll go through the ACS golf scale. Okay, let's have a closer look at these. To be honest, a little bit weird looking Mizunos. So there you go, a closer look at the clubs. Now, I do quite like that sort of, it's very dark over here at the moment in the UK because it's raining outside. I do quite like that sort of blue there. And obviously I do like the brushed steel on the bottom as well. So generally good looking, especially from the top, the top line there. These are sort of players distance or game improvement sort of irons in that sort of category. So the top line, normally, even though it is a bit thicker than normal, isn't that offensive. And you generally don't see the cavity back of the irons either, unless you sort of get up to the 4.54 iron. So not that bad look-wise, a little bit weird shaped, but I guess it's the technology about it. So let's get into the technology then, shall we? So firstly, we have dual max core pockets. So this is actually here and in the top here. So it's this cavity basically. So basically this cavity back all the way around, with the idea this increases rebound area for maximum distance. So having that sort of gap in between the club to help off hits to give you better distance and more forgiveness. And then we've got this power frame cavity, because this is a cavity back iron. And this is one thing I always say about cavity back irons. A lot hasn't changed from a cavity back iron, brand new nowadays, to cavity back iron sort of 8, 9, 10 years ago, which is sort of this club. They haven't changed. A cavity back iron is a cavity back iron. You can't do that much difference with that sort of technology. It is what it is. So there you go. So going back into the technology here, so it's a power frame cavity. So its weight is pushed to 4 corners for increased forgiveness. So there you go. You can sort of see actually you've got chunk there, obviously toe sort of sticks out a little bit more, and you'll have weight here. The idea obviously off-centered hits, because you've got the weight moved around, it does help with forgiveness. And then they've got the thinnest ever multi-thickness face. This achieves the highest allowable ball speed for maximum distance. So quite a lot of technology in there. And there's another point as well where you have this dual relief sole. So it's called dual relief zone sole, sorry, which is the ideal turf interaction for solid ball striking for all course conditions. So the idea, great a turf interaction to help you get that ball in the air. So there you go. And the idea is when they were promoting this club was for maximum distance and increased forgiveness. And it's all about this power frame. So there's all the technology that's in the club because, as I mentioned, cavity backs, they really haven't changed. I could do a modern day cavity back, could do like this year's version, and believe me, I wouldn't be spending that much more time on the sort of technology in it as I am with this. It hasn't really changed, and that's the thing when looking at second-hand clubs, is you can potentially go older and still get the performance. And talking about performance, now let's get down to the range and let's have a look at the performance in this club. Okay, to you back here in a bit.
So here I am down the range with the 8 and the 6 iron. Now I'm going to give you sort of the average what I would expect my 8 or 6 iron to go. But do remember, a game improvement iron I expect it to be probably a little bit longer than that average. And the sort of more players iron I expect it to be a little bit lower. So let's get straight into those figures. So with an 8 iron I expect my sort of average distance to be 150 yards. With this club, total carry was 147 yards, total distance was 147 yards, so I was literally getting this ball in the air and getting it stopping dead, which is quite impressive with an 8 iron. Ball speed was 111 miles per hour, launch angle 24 degrees, and height 103 feet, which just shows that I could really get this ball in the air really easily with these clubs, which is quite good. Now, moving on to 6 iron, on average I want that sort of 170 yards. With this club, I was getting a carry of 163 yards, total distance 168 yards, so a little bit short that 170, but I did have a few that did go over the 170, which is quite good. Ball speed on average 117 miles an hour, launch angle 20, again height 87, so again I was getting that ball really high up in the air. I mean, the best one I did for the 6 iron was a total distance 173 yards, carry was only 170, and height was 101. So again, I was getting the ball in the air and getting it stopping very quickly. So happy with that.
So there you go, the distances. Now, quite interesting there, because I wouldn't say these are game improvement from the distances that I've just hit. Now, for me, on average, I want my 8 iron to go 150. I want my 6 iron to go around the 170 mark total distance. Now, depending on some irons, maybe a bit less, a little bit more. I mean, if we take my MP20 HMBs, these go, I think my 8 iron goes around 145 on average, push to 150, but by 1.5. And they are a little bit more sleeker than these clubs. And what I'd say about these is a lot of reviews sort of say they're game improvement, but some of them say they play a distance iron. So then, therefore, that 160, like I said, sorry, 170, like I said, for the 6 iron would be what I'd expect to play as distance iron for. So it makes it quite difficult to categorize these, really. Are they game improvement? Are they not? And then you look at the loss. Now, don't get me wrong, these are 2015 club, but the loss of this 4 iron 22 degrees, 5 iron 25 degrees, 6 iron 28 degrees, 7 iron 32 degrees, 8 iron 36 degrees, 9 iron 40 degrees, pitching wedge 45, gap wedge 50. So these are actually more traditional lofts. If you're looking at game improvement irons nowadays, the 7 irons odds on is going to be below 30 degrees, maybe even at 28 degrees for this, which in this set is a 6 iron. So they're definitely more traditional loft, which is going to affect the distance. It's going to create better stopping power. It's going to create more spin on the irons, but then definitely affects the distance. So are they game improvement or are they play distance irons? Well, I'll let you guys decide after we go through the SES golf scale. And I'll give my sort of penny thought. What's penny thought? I don't know what the damn saying is, but I'll give my sort of snippet at the end of this video what I think. But anyway, let's get into the distance. So distance, I've given this a very respectable 3.5 out of 5. To get that 8 iron 147 yards total distance, it's just shy of that 150, but I did get one over that 150, 151. I mean, it was great to say the carry of the 8 iron. What the carry was 147 on average, and total distance was 147. I mean, the stopping power of these irons are great. I mean, I will say it's a regular shaft, so a little bit too flexible for me. So it does mean that the ball really does shoot up in the air a little bit more than it probably should do. But a lot of the reviews I've read as well, these irons really do help you get the ball in the air and get that stopping distance. And because of the very traditional lofts, you're going to get more spin as well. So they are going to stop like a dime, which is perfect, which going back to the game improvement or player's distance, edge it more towards the player's distance over game improvement. So there you go. But yeah, 3.5 out of 5. As I said, I want about 170 for my 6 iron. On average, 168. I had a few over the 170 mark, longest being about 173 total distance. So very much spot on. But again, 163 yards carry, total distance 168 with a 6 iron. So only that sort of 5 yards roll out there, which is very good with a 6 iron. Hit that green, it will stay on there. So great. Moving on to feel. Actually, feel. Let's leave feel to the end, because when it comes down to Mizuno, it's one of the biggest things. Nothing feels like a Mizuno. So we'll leave feel until the end. So we'll go into looks. I've given this, I actually written down something different here and I've changed my mind. I've given this a 2.5 out of 5. I like the blue little badge there, but I don't like the shape of this iron. I don't like this sort of higgledy-piggledy look there with this different color. I think it's just, obviously that's a different type of weighting. Obviously it's a weighting to go around it. And it sort of looks quite boxy. I don't like the tail to come out like that as well. Reminds me of the old pings. But I've still given it 2.5 out of 5 because looking down on it, you know, that top line isn't that thick. You can't really see the cavity back unless you get into really long irons. So looking down on the iron, it looks really nice, but in the top of the bag, I wouldn't really like it. So yeah, so there you go. So that's why I'm giving it a 2.5 out of 5. Now on to forgiveness. Now, if this was a game improvement iron, I would say the forgiveness would be 4 plus, really, when you're looking at game improvements. That's what I've noticed from reviewing clubs. I've actually given this 3.5 out of 5. I don't think it's got your ultimate game improvement forgiveness. I think there was a little bit of a drop off. Don't get me wrong, if you hit it on the bottom of the club, the ball speed went up, you'd still got sort of distance relatively to what you need. It's not a huge drop off, but it wasn't great. So I've given it 3.5 out of 5. Still a forgiving club, but again, I wouldn't necessarily say it was like game improvement. Just a little bit shy of the game improvement. Okay, now let's get on to price. Price, I've actually given this a 4 out of 5. So if you're going online, you get 5 pitching wedge from a secondhand store over here in the UK for about £210. So that's what, about $260. Not the end of the world. Quite good for 5 to pitching wedge. If you go on eBay, you can get these for under £200. You know, 5 pitching wedge I saw for 180. So that's around $225. It's all one going for £120. So that's $150. I think if you can get these for under £200, they're a very solid iron. Very solid iron for someone who wants to save themselves money. It's generally quite a good ball striker of the ball, you know, so it doesn't need maximum forgiveness, but just wants a club that you can pick up, go out and hit, because they were relatively quite easy to hit and they did get the ball in the air. So I think 4 out of 5, I think they're a really good option if you want to save yourself some money to go and get these second hand. And because they're cast iron as well, I mean, these are 2015 years old. 2015 years old? They're not 2015 years old. They're from 2015. So, you know, they're 8 years old now. And because they're cast, they're not that battered. You know, if you get some of the old forged Mizuno irons, they look so battered, they've been in the bag and everything like that. These, no, they really do hold up. So very nice there. Now, getting on to the most important bit, I think, when it comes down to Mizuno, and that's the feel. First thing first, before I get into the feel, I will say these are very playable irons as well, which again doesn't lead to sort of game improvement, goes more to player's distance. You know, I could draw this, I could fade this. They were very playable irons. Maybe not as much as the smaller, sleeker irons such as this, but they were very playable, which again moves away from a bit from that distance, that sort of game improvement style. But feel, nothing feels like a Mizuno. Don't get me wrong, these don't feel bad. They are a cast iron, they don't feel bad, but they do not feel like a Mizuno for me. I've given it a 3 out of 5 because, like I said, I really don't think they feel that bad. They feel quite nice. They're not that bad at all for a cast iron. But I've tried cast irons, you know, I've tried the JPX 91 hot metals, the modern day cast iron, which feel really nice out in the middle. These aren't there. They're all right. I know where I've missed my hit, but they're not buttery soft. They're not what I'd expect a Mizuno to feel like. So 3 out of 5, not complaining at all, but for me, not quite what I'd expect from a Mizuno iron. So there you go. There's the ACS Golf Scale. And overall, a solid iron. You know, if you get it for under £200 second hand, I don't think you're going to be disappointed. They're fun to hit. It helps you get the ball in the air. Got enough forgiveness in there for you if you need it. You know, if you're starting straight off the bat, you know, and it's your first ever set of golf clubs, I wouldn't necessarily suggest this. But you know, if you're maybe low 20s or 19s and you want to start maybe get into something, you know, get a bit working the ball a bit, I think they're perfect. You know, if you want to save yourself a bit of money, or if you know, mid to lower, you just want a bit more forgiveness, they've got ample there. But just don't expect them to feel perfect like normal Mizunos because they don't. So yes, overall, very good, very solid iron. Now, my sort of three-piece about are they game improvement or player distance, for me, they're definitely in the middle. They're not game improvement irons. I don't think they've got quite enough forgiveness or maybe even enough distance compared to modern game improvement irons, but they're not players distance because I definitely think I've got more forgiveness in the players distance and maybe a little bit more distance as well. So I think they're definitely in the middle when it comes down to those two categories. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Remember to subscribe to the channel for weekly golf reviews, new, old, as always. And do give me a like down below if you enjoyed the video. And remember to, well, as I mentioned, to subscribe to the channel, but do leave a comment down below as well if you've played old Mizunos, and what do you think of them? Because I do love the clubs. And again, this is a very solid performing iron, which you would expect from Mizuno, but just didn't quite feel as nice. So I'd be interested to see if there's any other Mizunos you've tried that don't necessarily feel like a Mizuno should. Okay, guys, I'll catch you soon in the next ACS Golf video. Bye-bye.